are several new chemicals that are out on the market this year, or even some that got released at the very tail end of last year that we wanted to talk about today because you're probably going to consider these products as upgrades for your current chemical program.
Well, there are a bunch of different chemicals out there, but you know, a lot of them aren't really new. They're just combinations of old products.
Of course they are.
And that's what I always get such a charge out of. These big chemical companies, it seems like they don't want us as farmers to know what's actually in the product. They just want to market it and say, oh, we've got this brand new thing that's fantastic. Our number one piece of advice to you today, if you're going to use any new chemical, is make sure you know what's in it and don't try it on every single acre. One thing our dad always told us is, if you want to look at the difference between farmers who are successful and those who aren't, it's often the size of their mistakes. In other words, if you're going to just make a whole bunch of little mistakes, we all make mistakes, it's not that big a deal. But if you start making big mistakes, pretty soon you go broke. So our point is, if you want to try new products, great. We advise you to do that. Try new things on your farm all the time. Just try them on a few acres to begin with. Don't try them on the whole farm, just in case something goes wrong.
Well, some of these products, as Brian mentioned, are really not new things. They're combinations of two products that have been on the market. So I don't think you're taking a huge risk if you're trying something that's already been out there. Like the first product I want to talk about today, Authority Assist. What Authority Assist is just a premix of Authority plus Pursuit. This is a product that's labeled for soybeans, and it really does bring something to the table. One of the challenges that we faced, especially in the western corn belt the last few years, is a few of those weeds that we used to have problems with before Roundup Ready crops, and now we're starting to have problems with them again. The ones that I'm most concerned about are wild buckwheat and black nightshade. These are two weeds that you say, well, wait a minute now, that's not usually my whole chemical program is trying to get those particular weeds, but what we're finding is a lot of the Roundup programs that are out on the market right now, those are the weeds that are getting through it. And with wild buckwheat, for example, it takes about 2 quarts of Roundup to do an 80% job on wild buckwheat. Well, why not use a pre-product that can wipe a lot of that wild buckwheat out before you ever see it? It's one of the strengths of Authority Assist. The other weed, black nightshade, is one that's been a problem for many years. It used to be a big issue. Roundup does a decent job on it, but the problem is it comes back again later in the season too. So if you can wipe that out with a residual product like Pursuit, that's a good way to go, and you can get Pursuit pretty cheap in Authority Assist. In the 5-ounce use rate of Authority Assist, there's about 3.3 ounces of Authority and 1.3 ounces of Pursuit. So it's about a third of a rate of the post-emerge rate of Pursuit. Does a good job, Authority Assist.
The next one we wanted to mention is called Balance Flex. It's basically the old Balance that we've had for years with a crop safener. Now, I've been a big believer and big supporter of Balance. We've used quite a bit of it on our farm because it's really the only pre-emerge herbicide in corn that you can use that does a great job on broadleaves. So with Balance Pro, we would go out there and put that out, then we'd follow up with Roundup later on. We'd have overall good weed control. Because Roundup struggles on broadleaves, Balance Pro is good on broadleaves. The only issue was this. Balance Pro, if you got too much out there, it could actually hurt the corn. It could turn the corn white. Well, nobody liked that. Now with this Balance Flex and that crop safener in there, you should be able to avoid that. The other thing they say is that you can spray the corn when it's pretty little with Balance Flex right over the top of the corn, and it's not supposed to hurt the corn. Now here again, I come back to these big mistakes and little mistakes. I think we're just going to try that on a few acres this year before I get real comfortable with it, but that's what the company is claiming it will do. Balance Flex, you could actually spray it anytime pre-emerge up to the time the corn is pretty little, probably 2 to 4 inch tall corn.
One thing that I'm kind of excited about in the program this year, we've been using some fungicide post-emerge in soybeans for a few years now, and the main one that we've been using has been Headline. It's been great. The yield gains have been good. We like the return on investment. Disease control's been good. But the one thing that has been a little bit of a challenge with Headline is greener stems at harvest. So some of the other chemical companies are taking advantage of this, and the marketing pitch is we're gonna have a fungicide that'll do all those good things, but you aren't gonna have as many green stems. The one that I'm talking about today is called Punch, and it's made by DuPont. It's a triazole fungicide, which is a different chemical family than Headline. So you may consider using some Punch or one of the triazoles in order to get away from some of the green stems from using fungicide in soybeans.
Well, speaking of fungicide, in wheat we've had problems with head scab for many years, Fusarium head blight. Well, we for many years only had Folicure, and that was on a Section 18 label, so it was just a year-to-year label. Well, now we've got two really good options. Caramba from BASF and Prosaro from Bayer. Prosaro is a combination of Folicure and Proline, and Caramba is a straight product. They are all triazoles, so they are safe to use at heading. Our advice to you if you want to use this to try to prevent head scab is to spray after full heading has occurred and at about the 15 to 20% flowering stage, and then you'll have the best results.
Well, all this talk about fungicides, we haven't even talked about insecticides yet, and one of those products that's been out in the market for a long time is Soybean, and one of the biggest farmer pushbacks on Soybean has been the smell. Oh, I don't know if I want to apply Soybean. That stuff really stinks. So there's a new product called Soybean Advanced that's come out to address that concern with a lower odor formulation. I'm not going to say it doesn't smell at all. We are talking about a chemical here anyway, but it's not going to smell as much as the old Soybean.
Well, there are a lot of new products out this year. Again, try some on your farm. Just make sure you aren't trying them on every acre. And speaking of trying new products, should we use something different for our Weed of the Week? We'll tell you what you need to stop it on your farm coming up later in the show.